A couple of months ago, interior design business coach Nancy Ganzekaufer told me about the new pricing tool she was about to launch. Called the Key, Nancy has built a spreadsheet-based tool to help designers improve their pricing structure and increase their profitability. Because I was already a fan of Nancy from her many appearances on Luann Nagara's podcast, I was happy to take a look at the Key. But because I'm a natural skeptic, I asked a bunch of my designer friends to also take a look and give me their feedback. Armed with this information, I sent Nancy a series of questions about the Key, as well as setting up the following video chat. So, without any further ado, here's my chat with Nancy Ganzekaufer as we discuss the Key. All right, Nancy. If you had 30 seconds to explain to a group of interior designers to describe the Key, what would you say?
So I use my business in words. It's an exercise that I have for free in my business building boutique. So I applied the Key to it, and I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. Okay. All right. It's going to say, hi, I'm the Key, the most detailed, comprehensive, and easy to use pricing tool for interior designers worldwide. I help interior designers accurately estimate pricing for a new build, renovation, full service design, or design only project profitably every single time by including a detailed pricing video, the Key spreadsheet, which is optimized for Google Sheets, Excel, and Numbers for Mac, 4 customizable Canva proposal templates, and a furniture's good, better, best investment guide. The interior designer can quickly, accurately, and confidently estimate their pricing and nail their presentation to their client every time. Nothing makes me happier than finding out an interior designer used the Key to charge their worth and confidently present at the correct price point and are excited to get the job. Line and said, oh my God, I just used the Key and it's going to be a $125,000 project just for the designer. And she's like, I need to get the guts to present it. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And she told me about the project and we worked through all the wording she needed to present to her client confidently.
For my next question, I asked Nancy why accuracy in pricing is or should be such a big deal for interior designers. Noticed when playing around with the Key is the concept of accurate pricing. Now, it may seem like kind of a no-brainer. Why is accurate pricing important? But could you kind of expand on why and how the Key helps with that?
Well, the Key helps get the clarity around your pricing, right? A lot of designers are forgetting certain parts of the design process. When they get nervous, they forget certain aspects of the pricing model and what they spend their time doing. So the Key, first of all, gives them an estimate as to, on average, what I have found over my 30 years in the interior design business, how long things take interior designers. Now, not only do I do that from my past experience, but the experience of my designer clients over the last 8 years. And my associate coach, Leslie Myrick, is currently still a working interior designer. And she verified all the numbers and went, yeah, that's actually accurate. And she even found that, gee, I'm not accurately estimating sometimes either. So it's really good that the Key makes sure you don't forget anything at each stage of the job, whether you're doing a design only, full service design, renovation, or new build. It has it all in there. To my mind, the Key is an absolute no-brainer for new interior design business owners. But what about experienced designers?
Wondering about experienced designers, we all kind of have our own shortcuts of how we do things. And I wonder if you've noticed or if you've already had feedback from more experienced designers where what they would have estimated for a job, maybe they were skipping things or underestimating, and how this could end up helping their profitability.
Well, with the suggested hours we have, they can quality control and go, okay, let's say Nancy's saying on the Key that it takes 25 hours to do the design phase of a living room, a non-plumbing room with no extras, no built-ins, no fireplace facades being reimagined. It's literally just basics. I'm saying 25 hours. That includes the meeting to present the detailed design, and even before that, the conceptual design, and then up to 2 rounds of revisions. If you can do all that in less than 25 hours, you're actually making more money, which is why the design phase is not presented as an hourly fee, but as a flat fee. If you can get control over your sourcing, not go down the sourcing rabbit hole, keep your meetings clean and concise and well organized, and keep your proposals simple where the client is at, not where your brain is at, but where the client's going to be at, it's going to make the whole process go smoother. Now, as an experienced designer, often they charge more hourly, and a less experienced designer will charge less hourly.
Mhm.
So let's say, based on their experience, it takes a less experienced designer 30 hours, but they're charging $100 an hour, right? But a more experienced designer, it's going to take them 20, and they're charging $200 an hour. So in the end, the dollar amount starts to even out often for the client. But your job as a designer is to get to know your numbers, and that's what the key helps you do. You combine that with the profitability analyzer that I have, checking at the end of every job, once you're done with the job, how profitable that job was, or maybe it lacked profitability, and you're going to start really understanding the numbers and the steps related to every one of your jobs, and you're going to be able to estimate much more cleanly in the future. But the first step is really understanding your numbers.
Right. So you would definitely say that those estimated times, they're not to be taken as gospel, that that how long it would take you to do a job may be different than it would take me to do a job or somebody else to do a job. So, but it gives them a starting point and maybe a way to every now and then self-analyze and see, why is it taking me that long to do that job? And then maybe diving into their processes. And so the key kind of changes from just being like a spreadsheet into something where it can be an analysis of how you do your business.
And it's really important. That's exactly what it is. Because think about it. If you take an hour to source every single item in a living room, okay, you're taking an hour to source a sofa, an hour to source the chairs, the table, the lamps, the paint, the window treatments. Like, picture how many things you actually have to choose. If every designer is going down the sourcing rabbit hole, which most of them do, they could spend hours. And in the end, they go and they figure out that the first or second choice is probably the one they land on in the end also, right? It happens every day. So what I always say is make your first, second choice, move on. Set a timer. If it normally takes you a half an hour, set it for 20 minutes. Start training your brain to source faster. This way, when you do present a flat fee for the design phase, you actually can make more money than you expected to hourly. So these are guidelines, but then you're learning your numbers as you're using the product.
What is the project scope planner and how does it make the key more effective? So the next question I'm going to look at is focusing on the project scope planner and how it works as a companion piece to the spreadsheet.
Yeah, again, it's like thinking through that every step. The project scope planner is broken down to rooms without plumbing and rooms with plumbing. And just this simple exercise just helps you remember all the small little details that often the designer forgets. When I'm speaking to designers in coaching, they'll go, it's only going to take me a half an hour. Like sometimes, so should I just do it without charging the client? It's going to be a half an hour. And I'm like, really? It's going to be a half an hour by the time you sit down at your computer, you go to the site, you source, then you take that product and you put it into your project management software or email the client, get their approval, get it back, place the order. Like there's a lot of steps in every single thing you do. And most of the time they just sort of forget, or there's complete steps that they go, oh, I never remember that I have to meet with the contractor or the architect. Things that people sort of just do and let go. But all those little things add up to a lot of time. So the project scope planner helps them make sure, again, they're not forgetting any details.
Right. And I wonder, as a ballpark, what type of percentage you think designers who even really consider that and maybe look back at the end of a job or after a series of jobs and realize that their planning for a job is so out of whack and they have no idea.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Doug, I had a designer who came into my Profit Insider program. And in the application process, I always say, how much do you think you make hourly? Like, how much do you make? And she's like, I'm a $250 an hour designer. And it made sense. She was in New York, where I am, and she was far out east in a very wealthy area. And then we ran a couple of her jobs through the Profitability Analyzer, which again is free on my site. She made about $52 an hour.
Wow.
Because she did not. It's great to say how much you make an hour, but if you're not actually accounting for every hour that you're working on that client, then you're really not making that. And that's what was happening. She would estimate. It's not just using the key, the ultimate designer's pricing tool. It's then having the guts to present that number, right?
Right.
So that number is much easier to present when you understand where it came from. So all the tools we give you as part of the key, including the training video, helps give you the guts to actually present what you deserve in order to make a living. Because that's what you should be doing if you're a designer, making a living, not just having it be a side hobby and making a couple of bucks.
Right. And you could, with that, you could back it up. So when a client pushes back and says, well, why am I paying $250 an hour? You can say it's because of this, 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 and this. You've got all of these things that you have, to do to provide that level of value.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little different from that. I mean, it's not justifying your $250 an hour as much as just being able to present a design fee and all that encompasses, right? Remember, as service providers, we just have to provide a price and what you're going to get for that price.
Right.
And that's transparency, right? In the past, transparency was like, oh, how much did I pay for it versus how much am I charging you for it? But really, it's about, this is what I'm charging you and this is what the deliverables are. Right. So the level of detail that we go into give you the confidence on the level of detail. But when it comes to your hourly rate, your hourly rate is set for your talent, your years of service, your process, how detailed it is, how hand-holding is it, right? As you raise your prices, you want to have a more luxury service for your clients. So your hourly rate is more tied to knowledge, years of experience, efficiency, and those types of things. The key is really going to give you that feeling of justifying your design fee and your project management fee and all that it entails.
Okay. That makes sense. And the same thing would apply to the estimated price and of goods as opposed to services for the key.
So of product, you mean, of furnishings?
Yes.
Yes. So we give you a good, better, best starting point guide that says, again, like a sofa, good is this dollar amount, better is that dollar amount, the best, highest quality, custom everything would be a different dollar amount. And if you say to your client, have you done your research and do you have an investment level in mind, AKA budget? I don't use the word budget, right? Budget makes people want to sit on their wallet. So if you listen to anything of that I put out in the world, I always go back to your investment level for your furnishings needs to be this dollar amount. If they're unsure, they can show the client the good, better, best guide, but I do want them to use it as a guide and readjust it for their location, right? So you're in Canada, I'm in New York. Depending on who my clientele would be versus who yours would be, you have to say what is good, better, and best. Some people don't consider, like somebody said, a client said to them, well, I really like restoration hardware, and that's like the best, right? So it's the client's perception that you're working with. So this guide that we provide for you as a starting point, and then you can modify it based on your business. What is considered a good, better, best chair in a dining room for your business? You can modify, have the client look, and then you start developing the investment level or quote unquote budget that the client needs to adhere to before you go sourcing, because you can't source until you know what the client is willing to spend.
For sure. Actually kind of did that same sort of idea. I totally stole this from you. Was all of our suppliers were in the midst of categorizing them all is good, better, and best to make that easier. So we're going to have a printout for new designers
for the people that work with us to say, oh, okay, well, this is where we're aiming. Well, these are the suppliers we'd use for that level of product.
Yes. Now, I was an art framing and accessory consultant for 17 years, and we had all our spreadsheets sort of similar.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to categorize because we had them categorized by style, then by price point. Some companies have a range.
Yeah.
So keeping your suppliers to a minimum, to those who you really like. The rep is helpful. The company is reputable. The company doesn't sell to the public. At least as many of those as possible will help you make money as a designer.
Yep.
All that goes into getting a really good investment level for your client, so they understand what they're going to spend. So it's your services, and it's the furnishing purchases, and the contractors, if it's needs a contractor, all combined is how much the client needs to spend. And sometimes they're looking for you to provide that full number, and it's so hard to do. So we provide extra backup material just in case you need to do that.
In this section, Nancy dives deep on profitability.
Because I thought you might find intermediate and experienced level designers looking at the key and maybe thinking, oh, that's not for me. That's for a beginner designer. I don't need that. I've been in business for X number of years and I don't need this. But as I looked at it, I thought it's a fantastic tool for what we've talked about before of analyzing your company and seeing, you think you're doing this, you think you're earning $250 an hour, but you're not. Or you think that you're pricing things accurately, but you're not. So
yeah, I mean, here's the other thing, Doug. I don't know if you've ever done this, if your wife has ever done it, but it's like, well, this is a really big furniture package. So I'm making $100,000 on the furniture package. So I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you're good. That's great. It's $100,000. Is that going to take you 2 years to make, a year to make with the current industry the way it is?
Oh, right.
Or longer, right? Right. But the bottom line is you're leaving money on the table, though, if you're just saying, well, I made enough money. You're leaving money on the table because you could also get the design fee and a project management fee.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you're being gluttonous. You're not being unfair to your clients. The way I look at it is your hourly rate or your design fee and your project management fee is for whenever you're replacing the client in the process. If you didn't exist, they would have to come up with their own design plan and they'd have to manage it and order it and track it and do everything themselves, correct?
Correct.
Right. So anytime you're replacing them, you need a fee for that. It's called a design fee or a project management fee. Your furnishings and your margin on your furnishings that you have the right to get is from your years of researching the company, understanding how the product is made, going to markets, continuing your education.
Mhm.
That's all built into your furniture margins. Okay, so that's your continuing education and keeping up with your reps.
Right.
Residential homeowners really don't understand everything it takes to be a designer, nor do they have to understand everything, but they have to understand that you deserve to make money all along the way.
Right.
If they don't want to do it themselves. And that's the case when they hire you.
My next question is for all those designers who prefer designing to working with spreadsheets.
So the next question I want to get to is speaking on to the video tutorial. And where I thought this was a fantastic addition to it. And I don't know if it was, you thought about doing that right from the get-go, is a lot of people hate spreadsheets. And designers as a whole are definitely more on the creative side than on the number crunching side of the spectrum of brains.
Yes.
And so I would assume that most designers doing spreadsheets is not something they're going to want to do. And the tutorial I thought was fantastic in that it walked you step through step through step of not just theoretical, but Leslie doing a practical example from her own business. So I thought that was brilliant. Like, go through that once or twice and just about anybody should feel confident to tackle the spreadsheet.
Yes, and pretty much everyone is tackling it. We've had one or two questions that people may have trouble downloading it to their computer, but that's just like a a tech and knowledge issue and they just email us and we give them a video and walk them through that too, right? It's the video trainings that we include with all of our spreadsheets, PDFs, scripts, everything that I have in my membership site backing up my coaching practice I almost always put a video with it, because even if it's short and sweet, that one was a little longer because there was so much to relay.
Right.
And I felt that this is not just the key, the designer's ultimate pricing tool, grab this spreadsheet and do it. We actually gave a whole lesson in how you should be pricing also, besides how to use the key itself. But we are getting one message after the other that, oh my God, I used the key. It's scary, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to present this design fee. And then the next message is, oh my God, they went for it. And believe it or not, Doug, they didn't have to give a lot of detail. It was more that they were so confident in their presentation because they understood the numbers. They understood where they got it from. And even though they had a little nerves, they understood that they could explain it if they had to. The key is not to be shown to clients. It is for your own knowledge on how you came up with your numbers so that you feel confident when you make the presentation. And it's happening exactly the way I had hoped it would happen.
Whether you do decor only, e-design, full service design, renovations, or new builds, the key has you covered.
High now, a lot of designers are struggling with that, adding delivery and freight to the numbers, but we want to make sure the client is aware of it and that you talk to them about it in the beginning. So we ask that you put in your freight and white glove percentage, and then your sales tax rate on services, if where you live you require a sales tax on your design fees, and then a sales tax rate on goods. That's the first tab. And then they go to, is this a decor only, where I'm providing just a design inspiration and maybe some links to retail sites? That would be a virtual design only or decor only. There's a tab for that, where all you're really doing is calculating how many hours it's going to take for you to do the design phase. And then there's the full service design tab, where you're doing the design phase, the project management, which is ordering, tracking, delivering, placement, finishing touches. And then we add a remodel tab, because we know that when you're doing a remodel, there's extra phases that a lot of people don't even consider. So we have a pre-remodel planning phase set up where you're figuring out how many hours it takes you, and I'm going to read this straight, for finishes, fixtures, fixed materials, selections that the contractor needs to get started, right? Because sometimes you have to provide a ton to the contractor, then select your pretty stuff to go into the room, right? And all the other detailed. So we split it up where you could think through, what do you need to provide to a contractor, making all those selections first. Let's get through that stage so the contractor can get started, then the design phase, then the project management phase. And if you actually come in and get a job that's a new build, where you're just looking at dirt, or the client is telling you all there is dirt right now, we added a pre-construction planning phase. So you can calculate how many meetings you're going to need with the client, the architect, the engineer, the builder, possibly getting permits, which some designers do for their clients, creating a proposed furniture plan and the documents that are required prior to even getting to the pre-construction phase, which is when you then provide all the finishes and fixtures and maybe a lookbook to the contractor. So this spreadsheet, the key, can take you from the simplest job where you're just giving advice on some design, all the way through to building a full house and helping the client through that, and all the different details that you have to think through in order to make sure you're getting paid properly.
What else can the key do for the business side of your business?
Once a designer has done all of that hard spreadsheet work and figured out their numbers, they can then transfer that information into one of the 4 Canva templates that will be presented to a client.
Correct. If they currently don't have a proposal template that they like and that they use, they can use the ones we provided, which then they can brand it to their colors and put their logo and their company name. And then we give them the outline of how to present the proposal. It's all, the pages are all there. You just have to plug in the numbers. I think the biggest beauty of the key, Doug, is that it does all the calculations for you, right? So I teach, get half your design fee, and then 3 days prior to your detailed presentation, get the other half. It breaks it down. The key totals it at the bottom. It gives you the total, it gives you the half and the other half. And then it
Right.
gives every section, even if you're doing a complete new build, is broken out by section. And we even gave a bonus section that if you happen to know the square footage, you can put it in there. And it's going to start seeing, you're going to be able to start telling whether your company has a standard square footage calculation, because everyone wants to charge flat fee and buy square footage, and everyone wants to get there, but they sometimes get there before they really understand their numbers. So we provided it there. So in the future, if there is consistency in that number, you can then start using square footage if you want to more accurately and knowing that you're not making a mistake or undercharging.
Right. So once again, we come back to accuracy in numbers.
Accuracy. Yep.
Accuracy. Okay.
So, what happens if you truly, truly hate spreadsheets and need additional support?
Like you said earlier, had been very few questions that have come back from users of the key. But
Yeah.
let's say somebody, after using the key, said, "Oh my God, Nancy, this is fantastic, but I think I need a little more help to take my business to the next level where I want to go." So, what would be a next step maybe for someone like that?
I'd say they would probably either go onto my website, nancyganzekaufer.com, click the Talk to Nancy button. They can get on my calendar for 45 minutes. I do charge for that, but it is one information packed session where they get to ask me anything. I get to dig into their business and make my suggestions. We record that session. They get a copy of it. So that would be one starting point. The next one would, I feel like I'm getting an echo. The next one would be to fill out an application for my Profit Insider program. It is my signature program. We get a ton of people in it, and it's a 1-year group program teaching a designer everything they need to know to run a profitable business. So it's everything from pricing and process and everything in between.
Could a designer enter that program at any time, or are there specific start and stop dates?
They can fill out the application at any time from my website, but we do print it up 3 or 4 times a year. We're opening up the next one in May 2023. I have 7 people in the group already. We take up to 20, 25 people if there's a need. But we try to keep the group small enough where everyone gets the personal attention they need, because there is not one interior design business that's a cookie cutter of another. They're all different. They all have their own specialties, their own little quirky personalities, their own ambitions, and we make sure there's one-on-one time for them with me and with my team, and they get the group time, and then they get the business helpline, which is literally a walkie-talkie app right to my phone that people leave messages on all throughout the day, and Leslie and I answer throughout the day to make sure no one ever feels stuck for too long.
All right. Well, that was my interview with Nancy Ganzekaufer about her new pricing tool, The Key. If you need more details, I posted an entire Q&A text into the Interior Designer website, and the link will be included in the video description below. On another note, this was the first video interview that I've done for Interior Designer, so please forgive me for any editing glitches or my performance as an interviewer. I promise that I will get better at this. For my next set of interviews, I will be speaking with some of the top interior design business coaches about why or why not an interior designer should hire a business coach, what makes a good business coach, and a whole bunch of other uncomfortable questions that they were kind enough to answer. If you think that the key can help you improve your interior design business, please follow my affiliate link over to the Key website. Thanks again for watching. For those of you who are new to Interior Designer, I want to let you know that our only goal is to help interior designers level up their careers and make their businesses better. Because we're designers too. We created Interior Designer in part to help our own residential business grow and improve. If we can help you too, that's even better. Because the truth is, most principal designers don't just design, they also handle the sales, bookkeeping, marketing, communications, hire and train employees, and manage the office. There are a ton of great education resources and service providers out there to help us improve and even grow our businesses. Interior Design Her exists to showcase those resources and introduce you to those service providers.